like to have this event to be more interactive, participative, and so that we are going to divide the sessions into 3 segments. The first segments will focus more on the business and regulation aspects. The second segments will be on the environmental aspects, and the third segments will be on the social aspects. And this is a hybrid sessions with simultaneous translations from English, Spanish, French, and Bahasa Indonesia. And we have here with us today already 5 distinguished speakers who will share some insights on the country's forestry situations from the various perspectives as per FSC 3 pillars. And as you can see on the stage here, all speakers are male, but no worries. We have a female host of the event. And we also have a female board member who is going to provide a closing remark later on, so all of you who knows who are actually in command. So first, we have Professor Indrayana Susilo. May you kindly stand up so that everyone can see. Professor Indrayana is currently the chairman of the Forestry Associations Indonesia, also the chair of the Indonesian forums, communications forums on the forestry community. And so he will be setting the context about the Indonesian forestry and be our keynote speaker for today. And the second, we have here Professor Herry Purnomo from CIFOR and from IPB University Bogor. He's also an expert in forest management and policy with quite extensive research. So he'll be also share with us more about the environmental issues that relates to Indonesia. And then we have Pak Purwadi Suprihanto, the Secretary General of the Associations of Indonesian Forest Concessionaires, APHI. We have Pak Ida Bagus Putra Partama, Executive Director of Indonesian Watershed Forum. He's also a FSC member from the Environmental Chamber South. And finally, we have Pak Yando Zakaria. He's an anthropologist, researcher from Studies for Village and Agrarian Reform. And in Indonesia, he's one of our most productive anthropological researchers on issues of community empowerment, rural development, and indigenous peoples' concerns. So their brief profiles you can find on the site event program as an overview. So I wish to, before we start with Indrayana, there is a 2 minutes videos that we would like to share with you. I would like to welcome Ivone Namikawa. Ivone, you can sit on front. Yes, as our board member representing Economic Chamber South. Give a warm welcome to Ivone. So yeah, before we start, as I said, we have 2 minutes videos to show you that this video has also been launched just very recently during the recent conference last Monday in Rome. So if we can start the video.
Buku The State of Indonesia's Forest seri ketiga menyoroti pentingnya peran hutan tropis Indonesia untuk mengatasi perubahan iklim global. Indonesia telah melaksanakan berbagai upaya mengurangi emisi yang dilakukan sejalan dengan pembangunan ekonomi nasional. Hal ini membawa Indonesia pada pencapaian signifikan dalam ekspor hasil hutan pada tahun 2021 yang mencapai nilai sampai dengan 13,6 miliar US dollar. Indonesia juga terus memperkuat keterlibatan masyarakat dalam pengelolaan hutan lestari sekaligus melakukan penyelesaian konflik tenurial, memberikan akses legal, pengelolaan hutan produksi dan hutan lindung, serta berkomitmen untuk melindungi dan mengelola ekosistem gambut secara berkelanjutan. Berbagai upaya dimaksud telah berhasil mengurangi tingkat deforestasi Indonesia secara signifikan menjadi 113.000 hektar lebih. Sektor hulu ditargetkan sudah dapat menyerap gas rumah kaca bersamaan dengan kegiatan penurunan emisi gas rumah kaca dari aktivitas transisi energi serta kegiatan eksplorasi sektor lainnya. Dengan komitmen sektor hulu yang ditargetkan dapat menurunkan hampir 60% dari total target penurunan emisi nasional. Diharapkan dapat menjadi fondasi untuk upaya penurunan emisi gas rumah kaca. Selamat membaca buku The State of Indonesia's Forest 2022 Towards Full Net Sink 2030.
Thank you. And again, a round of welcome to the participants who just joined us in the room. I can tell you what makes this event special is that almost all representatives of key Indonesian forestry stakeholders are present in this room. I wish to acknowledge and welcome the representatives of the forest-based companies and industry associations. We have the civil society organizations. We have here trade union organizations as well. Indigenous peoples and local communities. We have also some representatives from the retailers, certification bodies, conservationists, academicians, and researchers. And of course, all of those key players are making up the big global FSC family. I would now like to invite Professor Indroyono to provide the keynote speech for setting the context of today's event.
Thank you, Ibu Lita. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all of you to be present here in the side event of Indonesia session. Allow me to show the slide presentation or my presentation today. Also to reiterate, as mentioned by Excellency the Minister of Environment and Forestry in the video. Can I have the slides, please? All right, the topic of my speech and presentation is expanding FSC certified forest in Indonesia. Next slide. I'd like to share with you what is the status of our Indonesia forest today. First of all, the total forest area in Indonesia is 107 million hectare. Our total forest of Indonesia consists of plantation forest and natural forest, ecosystem restoration, and also social forestry. The total of this plantation forest, natural forest, and ecosystem restoration covering 30 million hectares is now being licensed into 567 concession holders. In terms of the social forestry, the government already allocate around 14.6 million hectares of our forests for the social forestry, and up until July 2022, already distributed to 5 million hectares of those into more than 1.1 million families in Indonesia. So all of this is going online and line together, both concession forest and also the social forestry. How is the progress mentioned by Excellency the Minister in the video? Yes, total our export in 2021 is around 13.6 billion US dollar. It's quite increasing compared in the last 6 years. We are very happy that in 2021 we are able to rebound after the COVID pandemic hit Indonesia. So hopefully we can move forward in this from the last year's status. If you see the number of how big up to 13.6 billion US dollar revenue coming from, Number one is from paper, 3.7 billion US dollar. Number two is from pulp, that's 3.2 billion US dollar, 3.7 over there, and panels at 3.1 billion US dollar. Now we are moving forward into try to implement the Paris Agreement toward 2015, which is Indonesia enhanced emissions to achieve NDC target. We are now moving to improve the percentage. Last month, in September 2022, we are put our target quite high, 31.9% unconditionally, and 42.2% in the conditionally conditions. This is part of the Indonesia long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience 2050, which is our target is we have to achieve net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. What it is, it's mentioned by the minister also, 60% of those targets rely on forestry sector. By 2030, with the follow net sink of Indonesia target, we should be able to have the target to achieve greenhouse gas emission reduction by 720 million tons CO2 equivalents, in which there will be minus 15 tons of CO2 equivalent emission level in 2030. So the NDC target of Indonesia rely heavily in the forestry sector. How to achieve that? The policy said that by 2030 should be minus 140 million tons of CO2 equivalents to be achieved by Indonesia. On that, there are four strategies that we are going to proceed. Number one, avoiding deforestation, which limit plant deforestation up to only 6 million hectares by 2030. Second, we have to reduce forest degradation. Number three, we have to protect and restore the peatlands. And number four, we have to accelerate afforestation and reforestation in Indonesia. So there's 567 units of these concession holders. They have to work together with all of you also toward achieving the NDC target, net sink follow 2030. So in doing so, I think many activities using multi-business policies, this has been set by the government of Indonesia law number 11, 2020, into various activities from the timber, non-timber, and also environmental services. In the environmental services issues, 11 mitigation action should be conducted, because this is the way we should be able to achieve the follow net sink 2030 by reducing deforestation, by reducing forest degradation, sustainable forest management, and up and down peat restoration, also the conservation of biodiversity. So my last slide, I'd like to share with you that yes, Indonesia would like to provide, we like to share our effort into global implementation of reducing carbon emission. Number one, plantation forest establishment in conservation and social forestry are playing important role to support Indonesia's net sink follow. This is a new ball game, I think, because now we are moving toward this area. Number two, we have the FSC General Assembly in Bali today. Our activities here is in line with the above Indonesia follow net sink 2030 main strategy. Number one, mitigation action to accelerate afforestation and reforestation, including plantation forest development in concession and social forestry. This is now we are talking about the policies of the FSC. Is a FSC cut-off date policy 1994. In order to achieve the mitigation action, I think these issues of 1994 cut-off date policy remain the bottleneck in the Indonesian context. So we look forward that if we want to do a global emission reduction, if we want to achieve the Paris Agreement target, I think the forest certification should be an instrument to improve forest governance and stimulate incentive. In line with this, you all see that with the video also that Indonesia were able try to work and to avoid deforestation, reduce forest degradation, accelerate afforestation and also reforestation. So looking forward that FSC cut-off date policy 1994 should be considered to be reviewed, not only for Indonesia, also for the global target to achieve the emission reduction in Indonesia. You will please see all the data. The state of Indonesia forest data will be available to you, but in the last 10 years, I think Indonesia showed that it already able to reduce the rate of deforestation very significantly, and by doing so, looking forward that FSC might consider these issues of the policy of the cut-off date 1994. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Indro. It's very interesting data and very interesting figures that we've seen on very brief presentations. It's very, so from what we could capture from the presented figures, we actually have to have a lot of forest potentials from the production forest and also the social forestry areas. Pak Purwadi, I will now would like to invite you to provide your comments and insights. With those potentials and amidst the global pressures on deforestation-free industries, do businesses see forestry sector still as opportunities? Because I could recall in my early days working with the Forestry Workers Union in the late 90s that forestry sectors was then one of the primary sectors of what we call as the sector unggulan in Indonesia, employing around 1 million workers in the down and upstream industries. How would you relate FSC certification prospects with Indonesian business context, yet at the same time also addressing global challenges?
Yes, thank you, Mbak Lita, dear colleague and participants. I'd like to underline and highlight first the presentation of Professor Indro Yono with regard to Mbak Lita request for asking some clarification. That of course we note and we understand that Indonesia in the last 3 decades has already contributed significantly in foreign export in, let's say, 1990s until 2010, yeah. And now, if you saw the presentation of Pak Indro Yono the last 7 years, showing that our forestry sector contribute and increase significantly. And into 2021, export of value increase on the high rate in historical data, achieve 13.5 billion US dollar. So it's time to awake. It's awakening moment for us, for Indonesia. And the question is, how is the near future to respond the global issue like, let's say, the European policy, yeah, deforestation-free product, etc. So I would say and show you the figure of how the progress of certification in Indonesia, and based on the data we can jump to how is the possibility to align of Indonesians forest, especially SVLK. And we understand and we do believe that the achievement of the forest export the last 7 years because of the influencing or SVLK's plays important role how to encourage the export. So now how is the possibility for SVLK and the FSC to align? Let me please, could you please show the, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just point out 2 slides in the first that this is the progress of forest certification, plantation forest, 2016 until 2021. If you see in this slide, you know, the certified FSC concession Indonesia, yeah, remaining 3,058 hectares. Yeah, it's about 3.2% of total plantation forest license in Indonesia, which is 11.2 million hectare. It's quite small compared with the total area of certification in Indonesia. So if you can see this PHPL, or we call it SVLK and VLK, yeah, growing rapidly, but at the same time, FSC and the voluntary, especially the voluntary scheme, remain 3.2% of 11 million hectare of Indonesian forest plantation area. This is the progress of plantation forest Indonesia, and the second slide showing the natural forest concessionaires. The same period, there will be 25 natural forest concessionaire, almost 2.7 million hectare. It's around 15.75% of 18.7 million hectare. Still room or space to be increased, to be scaled up. So on the question how we can align the SVLK and the opportunity of FSC to be put in place with SVLK, because we do understand that we cannot do by ourselves, and there is some space to collaboration. So you can see, yeah, sorry, yeah. I would point out the strategy issues to encourage synergy between SVLK and FSC to deal with the international issue, let's say deforestation, free product. The first is about the target to achieve Indonesia NDC and net sink follow at 2030. So if you are looking at the discussion for on the 2 days, yeah, we should encourage not only talking about the certification, yeah. And I believe in the last presentation from the board, yeah, they also focus how to reduce emission as part of the FSC or certification scheme. The second thing is scaling up restoration and conservation area. Do not say that certificates are only talking about how to enlarge the plantation, how to deal with the extraction of natural forest. The important thing, how to scale up the restoration and conservation area in the new policy, let's say remedy, yeah, and how the shifting utilization from natural forest to plantation forest. It is fact now, if you see in the data of Indonesia, the production of natural forest stable in 5 million cubic meters, but the plantation forest increasing rapidly. Yeah, now is 45 million cubic yearly. Then it is very important how we point out the cross-cutting issue on TFP and environmental services. So yesterday, the board also presented the important agenda 24 and 25, I guess, how they're dealing with the NTFP and environmental services. So it will be a broader perspective and opportunity for us to deal with the forcing multi-business as part in the Reno says as part of the Job Regulation Act implementation with FSC agenda. And the next is target to achieve FSC 60 million hectare certified area by 2026. It's quite huge, and Indonesia really offered that there will be a potential area, concessionaire, and social forestry. You know that Pak Indreno said that the Indonesia still has 11 million hectare of plantation forest and social forestry more than 11. 14 million hectare allocated and dedicated by government to community forest. So it will be opportunity for FSC with the new policy. We do expect a remedy PFA and PAC. And so what the needs for broader market recognition, of course, and The last thing, efficiency for SPLK and FSC certification process for combined audit. I think there are strategic issues that it could be aligned how FSC and SPLK should be collaborated. Thanks.
Thank you, Pak Purwadi. I think the FSC Forest Management National Standards for Indonesia has been launched in 2020.
Yeah.
And from the figures that you've presented, we do not see an improved trends towards a more or full FM certifications by the forest management units in the past years. Are there remaining challenges that needs to be tackled to allow expansions of FSC certifications?
Yes, sure. That's why we are here. Yeah, from the last 2 days and now we are talking how to expand FSC certified in Indonesia. And frankly speaking, that of course, FSC cut of date policy in 1994 is remaining our barriers and bottleneck now. And the second thing is how to deal with the issues about the last our progress is still focused on timber, Barulita, yeah. So how we try to accelerate FSC certification in Indonesia. The two things, how we overview and review the cut-off date policy. In terms, of course, there are conversion address policy address to conversion, remedy framework, and also, you know, policy address to conversion. Yeah, APFA policy for association. The three kind of a packet of policy should be encouraged to enhance forest certification based on the voluntary scheme in Indonesia. So I'd like to reiterate, you know, my previous statement that, of course, again, that certification is not only talking about the market incentive, okay? And I really appreciate with all of on the board and member of FSC, they open the opportunity to give the plantation forest and also natural forest, yeah, to review cut-off date policy, because it will, you know, emphasize and open the opportunity, yeah, to restore, to rehabilitate, and to expand the conservation area. Because I think remedy approach issued by FSC later, we do hope, it will influence the expanding of the restoration, rehabilitation, and also, you know, conservation area. And the most important thing, there will be huge opportunity for forest community, yeah, to expand, you know, the larger certification in FSC, because, you know, there are huge potential in the forestry sector, especially based on social forestry designed by the government of Indonesia. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So these challenges are quite important for us to address further, but let's just park here. I would now like to turn to Pak Yando, because we've been also touching base on the social forestry, and it's very, very interesting to explore a little bit further with the potentials of more than 11 million hectares allocated for community forestry. And just earlier this year, FSC has also approved the regional forest stewardship standards for smallholders with national adaptations for Indonesia. Pak Yando, how do you think that this opportunity can be implemented on the ground?
Thank you, Ibu Rulita. But before I ask your main question, I think I want to remind us to the big picture about the people and forests in Indonesia. In 1980, there is a book based on the dissertation in Harvard or something university in America, published with the title "Rich Forests, Poor People." it's tragedy in Indonesia. Yeah, but when we see what happened right now, I think there is not much change from that period. For example, in 2020, National Bureau Statistics still around launching that more than 50 villages in Indonesia have a boundary conflict with the forest area. So it's mean more than 35,000 villages in Indonesia still have the boundary for conflicts. And on the other side, the research of the data from the ministry from the 2012, for example, more than 70% of villages in Indonesia depend to the forest economic. So that the situation. And National Committee for Anti-Corruption in 2014, for example, announced that's only 3% permit give to the community compared to 97% to Pak Purwadi and friends. So it's very not equal. And at the end, I think right now it's still the 12 million people around in forest Indonesia still live in the poor situation. So that is the big picture. How we see what the social forestry program. So in that situation, in the first step, social forestry and including also the recognize of customary forest is very strategic, yeah, in overcoming the problem in equality in agrarian structures, agrarian conflicts, and also poverty in rural areas. But yeah, Pak Indro said as presentation previous, that as a target 12.7 million hectares, it's still only 40 or 30% on the target right now. So yeah, when we read the formal report from the ministry, there is 5 hectares, but 1 million of them only the allocation, not still delivered to the people. So indicative, yeah. So only 4 million. So there is many problem encountered in its implementation. Yeah. So the permit only maybe between 30 to 35%. When we talk of the production planning, maybe under 30% of the permit. And then when we ask about the market development, maybe under 10%. So even the social forestry program is the ambitious program from the Jokowi government, but the achievement, I think, still limited. There is some issues that we must clarify. The important thing is the other issues is especially how to recognize the forestry customary forests from the other community in Indonesia. As the figure as Pak Indrayono presentation is not more than 70,000 hectares and in the 10 years implementation. So when we compare to the data from the, say, AMAN, Archipelago Alliance for Indigenous People, that have the more than 27 million hectares. For that data, we need 600 years to finalize, recognize indigenous people forests. So there is the big problem, I think, still remain regarding content of law, too complicated, too politically, too formally. But another side, community forests based on the maybe family organization only. So the scheme of the regulation to recognize customary forests not compatible with the socio-anthropological in the field. So you can imagine for the one forestry customary forest, the subject of the forest, that is the indigenous community, must regulate by the regional regulation. And you know what? For one regulation, you need 2 million, billion for the. So when in 10 years, not only recognize 70,000 hectares, I think maybe you use your money to render land compared to recognize. So that is the problem of the regulation. And also the structure of law. There is no human capital in ministry. They only can, for example, verification, technical verification, only 410 units a year. So they have no human resources and also no money to make. So that is the situation. But relating to the FSC policy and small-scale forest management, the challenge is the community forestry, as Rahmat asked in the previous session, is in Indonesia very different, very variative, from the family land to the community land, and also another side, also based on the state land as the forestry program. So the challenge for the FSC to implement that policy in Indonesia, I think how make more practical, is more compatible with the socio-anthropologist relation in the field.
Yeah,
maybe that is my comment.
That's
Thank
very
you.
important key to tackle. And I think most of us would agree here that what we're promoting here is actually sustainable forestry and not sustainable poverty, especially for the people dependent on the forest. Yeah, some of you might just agree with us, and this is something. I mean, this notion is also very important message that we need to also understand and acknowledge, as well as addressing in the work, not only at the national level, but also at the global level.
So we have some information. Last year, I have researched with the European Forest Institute to see how possible integrate SVLK Indonesian with hutan adat. The conclusion is, yeah, SVLK is the way how to make the community forestry more valuable for the people. But again, it's not easier to fulfill the regulation before receive the permit from the government.
Okay. Yes, thank you. So we're opening up for the first round of questions or responses from the floor, but yes, please give a warm applause for the first segment. I give a chance or opportunities for 3 speakers or 3 participants to perhaps pose any questions or responses. May I look at the, yeah, we have here Pak Iwan, and then we have Richard and Pak Joko, and we have Brother R.C. Kuntia from India, and then finally Hasbi. So we have 5 actually. It's okay. And yeah, a little bit right. Pak Tarmizi. Yeah, okay, from Riau. Good. So Pak Iwan first.
Ya, terima kasih.
Please introduce yourself just
Ya,
5 seconds.
Thank you. I'm Iwan Wibisono from MFP 4. I will use bahasa because it's very rare to have Indonesia translation in any meeting, so I will speak in bahasa. Ya, saya terima kasih dan mengapresiasi apa yang dilakukan oleh APHI dalam upaya mendorong sinergi dan kemudian memperluas basis sertifikasi FSC di Indonesia. Saya ingin memperkuat apa yang disampaikan oleh Pak Purwadi, bahwa sebetulnya upaya itu menjadi penting untuk dilakukan, terutama dalam konteks mencapai target global FSC sendiri untuk sertifikasi 50 juta hektar hutan alam. Dan saya yakin Indonesia bisa menjadi salah satu kontributornya. Nah, kami di MFP 4 bersama dengan APHI sebetulnya ingin mempromosikan combine audit, sesuatu yang mungkin oleh sebagian teman-teman FSC dilihat sebagai kasus yang spesifik Indonesia, tetapi saya percaya bahwa dalam beberapa tahun ke depan kasus ini nggak akan hanya spesifik Indonesia, karena akan ada beberapa sistem nasional yang akan berkembang. Di Ghana akan ada segera sistem sertifikasi nasional. Kemudian di Guyana juga sedang mengembangkannya, dan beberapa negara Afrika dan Amerika Latin lainnya atau Asia mengembangkan sistem nasionalnya. Jadi saya pikir sinergi FSC dengan skema sertifikasi nasional menjadi penting dan urgent sebetulnya, terutama untuk memperkuat posisi FSC sendiri di tingkat nasional. Nah, kalau dari hasil kajian dari yang dilakukan oleh MFP 4 itu membuktikan, seperti yang tadi poin terakhir yang disampaikan oleh Pak Purwadi mendorong combine audit. Dari hasil uji coba yang kita lakukan di konsesi, combine audit itu setidaknya bisa mengurangi biaya sertifikasi 18-30%. Kemudian biaya persiapan 20-40%. Kalau untuk pemegang konsesi, saya yakin itu angka yang cukup signifikan gitu. Kenapa nggak dicoba dan didorong terus? Paling tidak di Indonesia bisa terjadi dan kemudian nanti di negara lain berkembang. Jadi saya pikir saya senang dengan FSC juga mendukung upaya ini, karena pada akhirnya benefitnya juga bagi para pemegang konsesi dan ujungnya bagi hutan Indonesia, karena pada akhirnya tidak membuat upaya sertifikasi itu menjadi sebuah barrier untuk menuju upaya perbaikan tata kelola dan kemudian juga pengelolaan hutan yang lebih baik. Saya pikir saya stop di situ dulu Mbak, supaya nggak ngambil waktu terlalu banyak, tapi saya mau reiterate dan memperkuat apa yang disampaikan oleh Pak Purwadi. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Iwan. Very glad to hear that actually if we can reduce the audit cost by 18-20%, it can also be reallocated to improve the working conditions of workers, right? Can I get an agreement on that? Yeah, of course. So I think your motions you can discuss with the unions after this. Yeah, Richard.
Richard Donovan, FSC Economic North. I love that you mentioned rich forests, poor people. I read a couple more chapters again on my way here, and by Nancy Peluso, and it's for people that are visiting Indonesia. Read it. It stands the test of time. It's an interesting document. I first started coming here in '92, and it was the first thing I read when I came here. It's interesting that you have HPH, you have HTIs, you now have community forests. All of these seem like they are avenues for things to move forward. I wonder if anyone could make an observation on the Indonesian vision related to, I think, the ERCs, the ecosystem restoration concessions, if there's a perspective there, because there could be also alignment with FSC on those restoration initiatives. And I think there's even an association of restaurasi organizations. So I wonder if there's a vision of that going forward. And if you have any idea on the number of hectares that it might go forward, and maybe that's a sensitive observation to make, but I just wonder. And a last comment is that there are a couple organizations here, Latin, Lembaga Alam Tropika Indonesia, and Rainforest Alliance and others that have been here for a long time working, and they've been involved in FSC. So you have some natural partners for future efforts. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. I think if there are some questions that you can take note of, and I would also invite not only the panels to respond to the questions, but if any of the participants also might be able to provide responses to that, that would be great. So third, Joko.
Terima kasih, saya juga pakai bahasa Indonesia saja. Nama saya Joko Sarjito dari WWF Indonesia. Saya ingin tanya ke Pak Purwadi tadi, mungkin bisa dijelaskan sedikit Pak tentang strategi bisa mencapai 50 juta hektar sampai tahun 2026. Karena kalau setahu saya baseline kita FSC Indonesia saat ini itu baru sekitar 3 jutaan. Ini kan more than 18 times. Dan ini gimana sih strateginya? Kemudian bekerja dengan siapa kira-kira stakeholder yang lain untuk bisa mencapai target itu. Itu saja dulu Pak. Terima kasih Pak.
Terima kasih. Dari dua itu dulu. I'll come to Brother Kuntia, Pak Tarmiji, and Hasbi later. So I think I'll come to you later, brother. I'll just get those two questions perhaps responded first. Okay. Who would like to address Pak Pur?
Yes, three question and respond. First, Pak Iwan, thanks Pak for your kind support for MFP4, and I think with FSC Indonesia, how to make a combined audit between the FSC and SVLK, and we do hope with the market, broader market recognition, there will be enlarged not only in Indonesia but also in the whole world. Thanks, Pak. And the second, Pak Richard, yes, Pak. Actually, three a different type of ecosystem of a concession in Indonesia. It's no longer exists anymore because the government now issued, we call it PBBH or what do you call it? Yeah, a forest license, not differentiate in a natural forest, a plantation forest, and ecosystem restoration. So you will have opportunity in one license, and you can make manage all of the commodities, yeah, timber, non-timber forest product, and also environmental services. So that's why, in line with the FSC target, I also respond. Pak Joko said that the main strategy for us now, we are not talking only into the enlargement of timber certification, but also non-timber certification, such as non-timber forest product and also non-environment services. That's why we are quite confident that with the new policy of the government, that there is no differentiation between the natural forest, plantation forest, and ecosystem restoration company. One package can be in hand and will be encouraged is, the management of a landscape. And the second thing, Pak Joko, I think I'd like to reiterate my statement, my previous statement, that of course, 60 million hectares target of FSC will be eligible, yeah, to scale up Indonesia. with the enabling condition such as what I said before, we do hope that, yes, cut off the policy can be reviewed, and there will be 11 million hectare and also 14 million hectares area. At least you have 30 million almost hectares, to be potential for FSC certified area Indonesia, combined concession area and also community forestry area. But also I'd like to underline what Yando said. It is our obligation now how to accelerate the community forestry license. And if we note that there are 5 a component of social forestry, one of the component is the partnership between company and also the community. So if it happen, I do believe that it can be accelerated significantly. Thanks.
Terima kasih Pak Yando. So I'll turn to Brother Kuntia.
Yes, good afternoon. Namaskar. Myself is Dr. R.C. Kuntia.
Please use the microphone and a little bit close to the mouth, because then it will be clearer for the translator.
Okay. Myself is Dr. Ramchandra Kuntia, Indian National Building Construction Forest and Woodworkers Federation President. I am also the member of Building and Woodworkers International Board. My question is very specific. In presentation, I have seen the target to achieve FSC 50 million hectare certified area in Indonesia. I'm a little confused because we are also, all national government is committed to achieve around 30% in SDG by 2030. So while fixing a target for certifying forest, it is good for trade and commerce. I'm very much happy and thankful that Indonesia is earning very good revenue. But whether also simultaneously has the target, how can they achieve the target of the SDG to increase the forest cover area, and whether it is possible. That's on my confusion.
Thank you, Brother Kuntia. Then I'll turn to Pak Tarmizi. Mohon agak dekat mikrofonnya ke mulut, Pak.
Terima kasih. Nama saya Tarmizi dari Riau, termasuk masyarakat adat suku Sakai. Izinkan saya Bapak-bapak dan Ibu-ibu, karena saya mempunyai petatah petitih kata orang Sakai, izinkan saya membaca sebuah pantun. Sakai Riau sampai di Delhi. Sampai di Delhi, sampai di sana membeli kuini. Tiada rencana sampai ke sini. Sakai Riau sampai di Bali. Makasih Bapak-bapak telah memberi waktu ke orang Sakai. Orang Sakai termasuk langka. Mungkin dari nenek moyang Sakai itu, baru saya berkemungkinan yang baru sampai ke pulaunya Bali. Rupanya sangatlah indah Pulau Bali. Mengapa di kampung Sakai tidak bisa seindah di Bali? Alhamdulillah, sebagai saya ambil untuk contoh supaya saya bawa ke kampung saya sendiri. Berbicara tentang manfaatnya perusahaan hutan tanam industri. Kalau manfaatnya hutan tanam industri bagi masyarakat adat suku Sakai, dan sudah ada bekerja sama pola kemitraan, sekaligus untuk seperti apa untuk menjaga hutan dan apa manfaatnya hutan itu. Alhamdulillah, semenjak terjadinya sudah ada pola kemitraan itu dari perusahaan dan sama masyarakat adat. Masyarakat suku Sakai yang awam tadi, sedikit demi sedikit sudah memahami dan sudah tahu tentang kepada kepentingan hutan tanam industri tersebut. Berbicara tentang kepada lingkungan dan konservasi. Yang kami harap ke depannya masalah sosial supaya dipercepat dan lingkungan konservasi bersama-sama kita untuk menjaga dan melestarinya sama masyarakat adat dan perusahaan hutan tanam industri. Mungkin itu yang dapat saya sampaikan. Karena dari awal tadi saya sampaikan dengan pantun, penutupnya pun saya tutup dengan pantun. Berjalan kita ke hutan negeri, kayunya indah dibuat peti. Kita perhatikan hutan tanam industri, perusahaannya dapat sertifikasi FSC. Terima kasih.
So for those non-Indonesians, there is a custom in his village, Pak Tarmizi, just to give you an overview that we like to exchange poems. And so this is what we usually do as, just to break the ice in the forum and in the discussions like this. Thank you, Pak Tarmizi. So it's very, very important note that you have also shared with us. So I need to close this segment on the business and regulations because otherwise we can't move into another much more exciting segments on the environment. And Pak Tarmizi has also reminded us, he was mentioning about conservation, about some other environmental related issues. But just the questions to what Brother Kuntia was also asking, I would like to perhaps turn Pak Purwadi just for 1 minute to clarify.
Yes, Pak. Siapa namanya tadi?
Kuntia.
Pak Kuntia. Yeah, Pak Kuntia. Thanks, Pak. Yeah, I'd like to remind you all that 50 million hectare is not Indonesian target, Pak. It's the FSC target. Yeah, but we are intentionally eager to contribute significantly to the achievement of FSC target. And I agree with you, Pak, that when we are talking about the certification, the issue of SDG should be included. And how can we accelerate in terms of Indonesian context? Yeah, if you see Pak Indrano presentation, one of the mitigation action, to achieve Indonesian net sink follow 2030 is reducing deforestation and degradation. It means that there is no number here, but based on the operational plan 2020 until 2030, there should be no more deforestation, especially in the plantation forest. So please note that what Indonesia doing so today is actually in line with the FSC objective. Especially we do really hope again that the cut-off date, a time can be transformed from 1994 until 2020, because the Indonesian commitment from 2020 until 2030, it should be there is no more deforestation, because it's very important for us, especially in a plantation forest, to achieve Indonesia's pollution net sink 2030. Thanks, Pak Charmiti. We do hope that your participate corporation and company with the, can enlarge the potential area for social forestry. Thanks, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Pur. I will need to postpone Hasbis and Pak Morlan comments later on, because now we need to turn into the environmental segment of this side event, which I would like to also have a couple of questions posed. I prepared a couple of questions for Professor Herry, because it is quite a challenge to regain the trust of the global community about the environmental improvement in Indonesia. And so that we usually turn to scholars like you to provide us insights and objectively in the global forest data, and some of which we also took from CIFOR. The trend of deforestation in Indonesia has been declining in the past 10 years, but there remains some deforestation rate yearly through, although not as significant as before. And could you shed us some light on this? How would you explain the myths versus realities on deforestation situations in Indonesia that the global community needs to understand so that we are not misconstrued on the issue?
Okay, thank you, Rulita. Yes, as Ibu Menteri mentioned, that there is still happening now deforestation. Ibu Menteri mentioned is 113,000 hectares yearly. So deforestation is still happening in Indonesia now. But if we compare with 25 years ago, in 1997 was 3.5 million hectares. So it's a huge improvement from forestry sector to reduce deforestation. So from 3.5 million hectares declining to 1.5 in 2010, and then declining into 500,000 hectares yearly. It's about 10 years ago. And this year is 0.1 million hectares. And it is a huge improvement. But if you look at in Indonesia, Indonesia is a big country actually. What happened in Java, in Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Papua is different. In Java, now we have a forest more than 10 years ago. So it's forest in Java. Like in France, in France was 14 million hectares in the beginning of France, and then declining in the 18th century into only 6 million hectares. And today we have 17 million hectares in France. So we have more forest today in Java. And in Sumatra, what happened in Sumatra, it is stabilized. It's a zero net deforestation in Sumatra. So it's, the rate of deforestation and the rate of afforestation more or less similar. But Borneo, Kalimantan, and Papua still happening at deforestation. That's why we have 113,000 deforestation. And Indonesia follow the definition by FAO. We distinguish between deforestation and degradation. If natural forest converted into planted forest, we call it degradation. Still forest, but degraded in terms of biodiversity in particular. But if it is converted into oil palm, we call it deforestation, because oil palm is crop plantation, agriculture plantation. And also I would like to make a point about the huge effort actually from Indonesia in terms of restoration. I think we are quite successful in restoration. In many provinces in Indonesia, restoration is happening, become a movement at the local level. That's why I do hope that FSC was able to reduce deforestation, but also able to increase or incentivize the restoration through the Motion 37. We need to give a chance for forestry sector in Sumatra, for instance. They are able to make remedy, to follow remedy framework. There's a risk, of course, but we have to do it. And I would like, the last point I would like to mention that deforestation in Indonesia is not what we call academically called treadmill deforestation. It's not treadmill deforestation. of course, Indonesia is not forest-rich development. So in Indonesia, we call it or categories having runway deforestation. Yes, we deforest forest, whether it's planned or unplanned, is illegal deforestation or government-led deforestation is planning. But it is as the capital for development. I think it's happening in many countries. So in Indonesia, we call it runway deforestation. Yeah. And one thing I related to FSC, I noticed that most certified forests under FSC actually happen in North America and also Europe. Yeah. Those countries actually experience deforestation before. Yeah. So I think now FSC should be adaptive, not only to big and small, but to different country and the transition curve. Yeah. There is a country at beginning of deforestation. There's country actually as a stabilized, and there's country actually have been recovered. How to make fair FSC to those countries? Thank you, Ma'am.
Thank you, Prof. Herry. I think that's quite inspiring. And you were mentioning about the remediations issues, which also came to our discussions and debate this week. Just this morning alone, I was also discussing with my union colleagues who were also posing the same questions about whether this remediations framework will actually bring positive environmental impact. So we would like to know, how confident are you that the restorations and the conservations requirements through the remedy framework this will bring environmental impact?
I'm confident that they have to do as a forester. We are not good at harvesting forests. We are also good in growing forests, yeah? And also restore the ecosystem. Yeah? So I believe there is a price premium. I hope the HTI, the planted forest, get a price premium from the certified FSC certified forest, as well as green premium that they have to spend. The big concession, small concession have to spend to restore the forest. I myself working in different area for restoring, community-based, develop kind of business model with the community to restore. Then I think the result is quite interesting. The reforestation is happening, restoration is happening. You can prove it on the ground, yeah? As long as it is in line with what stakeholders want, what the right holders want. Yeah? So we try to combine between business as well as ecosystem services, ecosystem restoration. So with the support of the private companies, partnership between private companies with community, endorsed by government, I do believe, yeah, that restoration, remediation can happen there. Of course, there's a huge challenge related to the property right, of course, yeah? And also the different community behavior. Yeah? It's not all community actually love nature sometimes. Yeah? Some community actually is more modern. Yeah? Want to work at on the city. Yeah? So we need to be also careful when we talk a community. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Herry. Yeah, we already touching base on the remediation framework. And I hope that what you've shared with us will also be taken as a reference for the FSC members and this General Assembly's participants to discuss a little bit further and enhance their knowledge and understanding about what sort of impact it would bring, the remediation framework would bring to the conservations and restoration efforts, which I would like also to build on that context with Pak Putra. Pak Putra has been joining in almost all of the webinars regarding the conservation issues and the remediations frameworks that was held by FSC, before this GA. So if in your observations, how is the forest management unit's modalities and challenges to implement the remediations framework and get more certified areas as targeted from the environmental perspective?
Thank you, Rolita. I didn't join all of the webinars, but I joined some, and
so it must be some of your proxies.
yeah, and all of them are actually my learning process of the FSC system, because I'm a new member to this community. Rolita, in my view, Indonesia FMUs have been put in a ready mode for a long time to implement the card package. You call the card package, the package approved by the BOD last month.
If you can clarify, card is conversions, associations, remediations, and disclosure.
Disclosure, thank you, Rita. That's because, like it was highlighted by previous speakers, in response to the change in the world view on deforestation and conversion, the government of Indonesia adopt the new view and adopt their policies and produce regulation imposed to the FMUs. And the good thing is FMUs are willingly to comply the regulations. So there are regulation on stopping deforestation, halting clearing of a remaining natural forest, protecting biodiversity, conserving HCV, and the enhancement of company local people partnership. Pak Tarmizi just shared his testimonial that it can be done. So the good thing is regulations are there, and willingness in the part of the FMUs is also there. So these two make a very good combination for a great modality for the FMUs to implement the card package. So the ecosystem for the implementation is there. Of course, implementing the card is not a walk in the park. It's not the implementation of the card is not a walk in the park. I would say challenges also. There are of course challenges, and first of all, the remedy framework itself is not very easy. Implementing it, it will demand resources, demands commitment, and demands time consuming also, but they are doable. And I think the challenge, the technicality, there will be not much challenge because as indicated by Pak Herry also, the technicality on how to conserve biodiversity, how to rehabilitate forests, how to establish cooperation with the people, they are all there, and we are gaining success on that. So, but probably the social aspects of the remedial framework will be quite challenging, because first of all, when we talk about impacted people, we even probably find difficulties in starting from identifying the people. Which people do you mean? Which people are the affected people? And then if that is done, we also need to improve their capacity in order to be in the same level of capacity to implement the remedial framework. And also the card package produce more stricter or stronger requirement, starting from definition. For example, it is stipulated that when a company conducted unacceptable action, for example, the impact or the consequence of that unacceptable acts could also be could also apply to other companies belonging to the same groups. And in the case of Indonesia, this maybe create a problem because the change of the definition or in group, that's it's not ownership anymore, which is good for because it take out the loophole, the previous loophole of ownership, but that will create something to do, more to do, but they're doable. So just a couple of minutes, a few minutes more, Rolita.
No, I think I need to
yeah.
move on.
Yeah. So just one more paragraph, I would say. So please do not postpone this good thing to happen, because it will bring a lot of good thing, including to correct, including to revise the title of Nancy Peluso book, Rich Forest Poor People. We will be able to revise it into Rich Forest Rich People. So let's do the best we can do to realize that in Indonesia. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you. I was actually thinking of segregating the environmental segments with the social segments, but I think that she already started to mention about the social issues. So let me just dive straight to that and just combine the two segments together with the responses from the participants later on. And in light of this GA, also FSC launched a podcast last week on the importance of people in shaping up forest solutions. So, and as you also touch base on, Pak Putra, that some of the eminent social issues, there are a lot of one of the challenges is maybe identifications, but a lot of issues comes in the forms of the land conflicts and upholding rights of indigenous peoples and workers. So we have seen that there are commitments pledged at the corporate levels, but not being materialized into actions by their people working on the ground. So I would like to ask Payando, what do you see is actually missing in the process on practical terms so that actually social issues are properly addressed and also taken care of in terms of the remediations as well in the forest management?
Thank you. I think based on my experience, the main issues is methodology. Yeah, I remember my experience around 5 years ago. Someone from the forest company come to me and asked how to make study about land tenure. He tries to find out from the Google, from the library, and they have no guidelines. So in that time, we have a joke in the conflict, land conflict issues is make the common sense, meet the common sense, it means nonsense. Because there is methodology. What is the tenure issues itself, especially the indigenous or other land. So that is the problem. Now, it also we have other experience how to implement FPIC, for example. Yeah, as Pa Putra said before, now, and also Pa Herry said before, now our community is not like 100 years ago. For example, as Pa Tarmizi said, yeah, we have now want to make the flow from the before and then. So the problem is, I think, about the methodology. For example, for the FPIC principle, the main question is about broad community support and consent. How to achieve that objective? Under what circumstances a consent or broad community support has been reached? Yeah, sometimes it's about the process, how the communication or public consultation suitable to cultural wise, or suitable with the IP structure, representative, and so on. But now the community is not homogeneous like the old situation, because the information come to the community very high. So it makes one members have the different opinion about the situation. So the challenge is how to do the define. So based on that situation, I think when we talk about what the World Bank independent panel said, we have in the implementation FPIC, there is at least two criteria. The first is the specific criteria. It means the broad condition, for example, transparent, inclusive, informed, and then also cultural sensitive and so on. But based on my experience, I'm not want to talk about one project, but the other in that special condition is not enough, because at the end we talk about what the World Bank inspection panel said as the specific or sensitive criteria. What is it? So the challenge, how the consent or the community broad can conclude between, for example, 80% of the member agree and 20 members not agree is not enough, I think. So for that situation, I think we are not thinking about the sensitive. For example, there is disagrees, 10% is make the riot, for example, will be make human rights problem and so on. So I think we have the homework to implement the good principle like the free, prior, informed consent, but we must develop the methodology to evaluate what is the consent itself, what is the community broad support itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important thing. So I would like to ask, we're actually running a little bit behind times, but it's very interesting subjects that for us to discuss. And I see that there are also lots of colleagues from outside Indonesia, outside the region, participating in this event. So I would also like to give an opportunity for you to, for the participants to pose questions, or you would like to share something in this occasions. We have Benoit, is that you? Okay. And then we have the gentleman here, and from the back, next to Camilla, Ian, is that you? Okay. So I'll take three first, and then if we still have time later on, I hope to bring in more. Benoit.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. I am Benoit Jobedival from ATABT Association. As this issue is important in this General Assembly, I would like to ask to the panel if IFL are an issue for Indonesia faced to the project to have 50 million hectares of FSC certification. So what's the impact of IFL in Indonesia? Thanks. Intact IFL, sorry, is intact forest landscapes.
IFL, yeah. Thank you. So we park the questions first and then they will address that later after the two respondents.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then we have Bapak yang Pak Maulana nih, yang Bapak pakai baju biru dulu. Nanti saya akan kasih kesempatan. Terima kasih. No, you yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm in Social South. Okay, and I from Taiwan.
And your name?
I'm Jesse. Just
yeah,
call me Jesse. I'd like to ask a question about the Indonesian government, about the indigenous right, about carbon credit, because you talking about you want to promote common thing. I think Indonesia is a very important contribution to the world about common thing. But but you know, in Glasgow Declaration last year, or climate change something talking about common credit. Any credit distribute to indigenous people because they just is come from their ancestor to them. Nah, so I'd like to ask this question. Thank you.
Thank you on the carbon credit. And then Ian. Any microphone, please. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ian Redmond from the Born Free Foundation. I really enjoyed this morning's discussion, and I'm encouraged by the importance that Indonesia is putting on ecosystem restoration of ecosystems, because much of the challenge facing the world is how to make the area of forests which already exists more efficient. And it turns out, recent research is showing that forests are more efficient when they have animals in them, because the animals are not just an optional extra. You've got some trees and there might or might not be some animals. I'm actually inspired by our colleague who began his with a poem to borrow that and say that there is a poem that starts, a shaggy red cog clambering through the canopy, orangutan. I won't go through the whole poem, but orangutans and the other animals in the forest are cogs in the forest machinery. And when they're there, the forest sequesters and stores more carbon than when they're not there. So if you're looking for the carbon benefits, keep the animals safe. And I know Indonesia is committed to ensuring orangutans do survive, but not just as ornaments, as the gardeners of the forest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Then last speaker, Bapak, silakan. Itu mic-nya.
Terima kasih. Bapak, Ibu, Saudara semua yang saya hormati dan saya cintai. Saya lebih dulu perkenalkan nama saya Morlan Simanjuntak, tempat tinggal Tapanuli Utara, Kecamatan Siborong-Borong, Desa Pohanjae, Dusun 3, Nagasaribu, Onakerbangan. Terima kasih bagi Tuhan, saya tiba di Pulau Bali ini untuk mengikuti seperti acara kita pada hari ini. Terima kasih juga kepada Forum Internasional yang mengundang saya datang ke tempat ini untuk menyatakan pernyataan saya, utusan dari tokoh masyarakat adat dari Tapanuli Utara. Yang perlu yang perlu pertama saya sampaikan seperti ini. Sebenarnya kampung kami jauh dari kota. Dan nenek moyang kami pun sampai sekarang pada zaman kami hidup di dalam hutan. Jadi kami pun juga termasuk petani hutan kemenyan. Oleh karena itu saya buka seluruh di forum ini bahwa kami taat kepada peraturan pemerintah dalam perundang-undangan perhutanan sosial. Dan juga untuk melestarikan kehidupan, kami juga bermitra dengan perusahaan untuk mensejahterakan kehidupan masyarakat. Oleh karena itu kami selalu jaga konflik. Tetapi akhir-akhir ini kami berkonflik antara masyarakat sama masyarakat. Karena ada sesuatu hal yang tidak memuaskan untuk pikiran kita sendiri di desa. Seperti LSM lokal. Oleh karena itu, saya minta kepada seluruh kita yang ada di sini, juga bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, biar kita berdamai, jangan ada lagi konflik ke hari depan. Oleh karena itu kami bermitra di dalam kemitraan perusahaan untuk meningkatkan hidup agar kami sejahtera dan juga
to ensure that we can live prosperous. And we also hope that the government also provides us with education, for example, in agriculture, for our improvement of welfare. We hope that the government can help us with the provision of seeds, and we hope that all indigenous people communities, especially in North Tapanuli, to work together to preserve our nature and forest, to avoid forest degradation. I, representing the indigenous people from North Tapanuli, would like to declare that together with the government, together with the companies, to work together in a better manner in the future in order to preserve the nature and forests and the areas in our villages. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you, John. So yeah, very brief.
Breve, súper breve. Por favor.
Thanks. Just to squeeze in some comments at the end. John Jickling, Preferred by Nature, Economic Chamber. I'm just excited to hear the comments from the panelists about their optimism that the FSC, through its remedy framework, can have an impact at a significant scale in Indonesia. I applaud the work of the government of Indonesia across many fronts to improve sustainable forest management. But given that we're talking about the remedy framework this week, seriously, I think your message is a clear one, that there are real environmental benefits. We know what they are in terms of biodiversity, watersheds, etc., but also the social benefits. You know, we've heard countless times the voices from our colleagues and from indigenous people, local communities about the long overdue debt that they have that resulted from conversion and harm that they faced through that conversion. So the remedy framework, we all know it's not a perfect system. It is finally a way forward for companies and communities who have been wanting to achieve FSC certification, but have been blocked by the 1994 threshold. So I encourage everyone. I had a bunch more comments, but I'll keep it short. I just think that it's important to share this information, this perspective about the positive benefits of the threshold, the remedy framework, and encourage other members to see that and to ultimately approve motion 37. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, John. So, yeah, final segment of the hour. We're running behind time. Sorry. But I think what has been expressed, what has been shared both by the panelists and by the participants are also quite interesting and very important for us to think about future work, current work, to reflect, to improve and enhance for future work that needs to be done in expanding the FSC certifications in Indonesia. So give one last chance for each of the panelists to deliver like one message to forum. You can respond to any of the questions that has been posed by the participants, or you can also do your own punchline just to emphasize the message that you've been sharing with us. So I think from Pak Purwadi and Pak Putra, Bang Yando, Professor Herry, and then Bapak Indroyono untuk closing. Nanti Bapak terakhir aja. Kalian tutup. Sebelum nanti I will on behalf of the board. So 1 minute only because we have 5. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lita, dear colleague and participant. Really, thanks, appreciate what for responding and suggestion, and especially how support Indonesian achievement and Indonesian target toward net sink pollute 2030. I do hope that my point is that we cannot do all of the things by ourselves. So please, we can strengthen our collaboration, especially we do believe that SPLK has achieved a significant achievement. Yeah, but we do believe that the strong collaboration, especially with FSC, we will have a broader market recognition in the world, and also we can encourage restoration, rehabilitation, also conservation as well, not only in Indonesia, but in the other world and the whole world. Thanks, Lita.
Thank you. I would like to use the last minute given to request, please do not let the huge momentum, the huge opportunity lost by postponing us to implement the remedy framework any longer. It is not good for the forest. It is not good for the people. It is not good for the planet, and it is not helping forest FSC to be the real steward of the global forest. So please let us implement remedial framework as soon as possible. We are ready to do that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to stress our homework about how to implement remedy framework in terms of social issues. I want to use the last response to explain our problem. Let me in bahasa because
as a Batak person, Pak Marlan Simanjuntak will be involved in the connection which is called Dalihan Natolo in Bataknese. So every Batak has 3 positions: hula-hula, Boru, and Pariban. So 3 positions. In a certain time, I am hula-hula. On the other occasion, I am Boru. On another occasion, I am Pariban. It is so complex. That is number 1. Number two, if we relate this with the land, the history of the land of the Batak people, it is very simple. Among three parts, there are what we call King Marga, the Marga of the king, who opens the land at the first time. So imagine what you said earlier. If the king of the Marga agrees that the land is used by the company and the Boru doesn't want the company to do that, do you think they will have a consensus? Or the other way around? If Boru disagree, or the king disagree, what about the concept? So this is extraordinary problem. If we talk about FPIC, or we have to think about methodology, remedy is impossible to be implemented if we always think in the past, if we think about the past. So FPCI is about conflict resolution.
Indonesia is not experiencing threatened deforestation without end, but experiencing runway deforestation. Deforestation in Java stopped, and in Sumatra is net deforestation also happening, but still deforestation happening in Papua as well as Kalimantan. But the second, FSC must be adopted, the standard, not only to big and small, but to different regions, different countries along the transition curve. You need to differentiate between North America, Europe, and also Asia, particularly Indonesia and other countries. And last one is related to the remedy framework. Price premium for green premium. Green premium, government company must invest to get price premium. So green premium for price premium and price premium for green premium.
Just seconds. I think the world now moving toward climate change, temperature rise of sea level rise, and global warming. Tropical forests of Indonesia provide a positive issues to support this challenge. So I would like to remind and to reiterate to everybody here, member of the FSC, in the FSC community, please let us look forward what have been done in the last 28 years and look forward another 30 years and 40 years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Rulita. I'm now in a very difficult position because I think I'm now between you and your lunch. And you have invited me to come here and have this opportunity to get knowledge around so many important figures, numbers, but also around thinking and culture and importance for the environment. So this is something that really touches me, particularly as a person, as a forester, and as a person that is involved in FSC system. So first of all, I want to thank you. And I would say that in my appointments here, I put many things. One that is very important. I don't think FSC is the only solution for all the problems. Please, it is not. And we need to be sure about that. What you have shown me now is how we can, for different issues and different goals and objectives, like SDGs or Indonesian NDC or the world need for climate mitigation and adaptation. You are totally right. There are figures that are linked to forests, and this linkage is so important. So FSC is part of this solution, but please, FSC alone is not going to do all what is needed. Just 2 points more. One that calls my attention always is around biodiversity, is around water. It's not only around carbon, but it's around all the ecosystem services. And as you know, Rulita, we have tools that can be used, and this, I think, will be really, really important if we talk around conservation and restoration. So let's take always in account that are other figures than only CO2 equivalent or wherever. I know that this is an important issue, it's an important number, but we need to take care and think around important issues like biodiversity. And for me and for my country, because we faced problems with water. I think water is so linked with these forestry issues that we always need to think in a conjunction. It's always linked. And I think for like my ending remark is that all of these numbers, all of these objectives are not with any value if we don't talk about people. You are totally right. And this is something that are in my and are still, I think, in this remediation framework. It needs to be much more clear what we really are expecting with this, because it is not a kind of agreement or commitment that we sign, and that's okay. It's not about that. It's about having really difference on the ground, difference on the lives of the people. And I think for me, this is so important, because FPIC, you say different, but I learned to say FPIC and I can't do the other way. But FPIC is so special, but it is special because this is not only a method. It's about considering the culture, respecting the value of the people, and working with FPIC, with this concept, but adapted to each community, to each people that we are working. So please, let's take in account what you are saying, how people is important all this issue. So thank you so much, and thank you for letting me learn around your issues in forestry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yvonne. So before I close the sessions, I have some souvenirs. bought it on my way here. So this is FSC certified that it's locally made by the forestry certificate holders in Indonesia. So I'm very proud to hand it over to those who have been sharing insights from the participants, those who've been posing questions, making this side event more lively. So I'm calling you to come up to get this gift from me. And I think I only have 9. So I'm calling Pak Iwan, Richard, Mas Joko, Tarmizi, Pak Tarmizi, Benoit, James, Ian, Morlan. I'll send one to John later. So thank you again, Ivone. Thank you, Pak Indroyanto, Professor Herry, Pak Yando, Pak Putra, and Pak Purwadi, and thank you, participants, for attending this very interesting and lively side events. And now I'm inviting you to lunch.